want to be clear about one thing before I start. I'm not a superstitious man. I've worked security for 11 years. Night shifts in hospitals, warehouses, construction sites. I have walked through more dark buildings alone than most people will ever see in their lives. I do not scare easily. I do not imagine things. So when I tell you that something was walking above me in a building that had no upper floor, I need you to understand that I checked twice, and what I found up there was not a ghost. It was worse. The job was simple. 12 hours, midnight to noon. Walk the perimeter every 2 hours. Check the doors. Log everything in the book. The building was an old textile factory, shut down in 1987, bought by a developer who never developed anything. Just sat there. 3 floors of nothing. My station was a small room on the ground floor near the main entrance. A desk, a chair, a space heater, a logbook. The kind of setup that tells you exactly how much the company cares about the person doing the job. First 2 weeks were uneventful. Cold, boring. Exactly what night security is supposed to be. I drank bad coffee and listened to the building settle. Old buildings make noise. I knew that. I had made peace with that. It started on a Wednesday, 3rd week in. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps above me. Clear, deliberate footsteps. Not pipes, not the building settling. Footsteps. The kind made by something with weight. I checked the plans. The room directly above my station was listed as a storage area, sealed off in 1989 after a structural inspection flagged the floor as unsafe. The access door on the 2nd floor was padlocked. I had the only key. I went up, padlock untouched, door sealed. I stood there for 5 minutes and heard nothing. Went back downstairs, sat down. 30 seconds later, footsteps again, directly above my head. I reported it. My supervisor told me it was rats. I told him these were not rat footsteps. He told me to log it and move on. So I did. For 3 more nights I heard them. Always between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Always directly above me. Always stopping the moment I went upstairs to check. On the 4th night, I didn't go upstairs. I sat at my desk and I recorded on my phone 40 minutes of audio. When I played it back, I could hear them clearly. Slow, measured steps moving back and forth above me. And something else. Between the footsteps. A sound I couldn't identify at first. It took me 3 listens to understand what it was. Someone was humming. Quietly. Almost below hearing. The same 4 notes over and over. I went back to my supervisor with the recording. He listened to about 30 seconds of it and went quiet in a way that told me he recognized something. Not the sound, the situation. He told me the previous guard had reported the same thing 6 months ago. He'd lasted 3 weeks and then quit without giving notice. Just stopped showing up. The company had written it off as an unreliable employee. I asked him what was in that sealed room. He said he didn't know. I asked him if anyone had been inside since 1989. He said he didn't know that either. Then he told me to go home and get some rest and come back the next night. I went home. I did not rest. I started making calls. I found a local historian who had written about the factory. She told me that in 1987, 3 months before the factory closed, a worker had gone missing on the night shift. A man named Edwin Reese, 54 years old, maintenance crew. He had clocked in at midnight and never clocked out. No body was ever found. The case was ruled an accidental death. Fell through a weakened floor, most likely, and the upper storage area was sealed as a precaution. I asked her if the humming meant anything. I described the 4 notes. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, and I'm going to read this from the notes I took because I want to get it exactly right. She said, Edwin Reese was known on the factory floor for one thing. He hummed constantly while he worked. The other workers used to joke about it. I sat with that for a while. I went back that night. I told myself it was just to finish the shift and hand in my resignation in the morning. Sensible decision, the right decision. At 3 a.m., the footsteps started. I sat at my desk and I did not move. I listened. They moved back and forth above me, same as every night. Then they stopped. And for the first time in 3 weeks, they did not stop in the middle of the room. They moved toward the access door, slowly, and stopped directly on the other side of it. I could hear breathing through the door, low and slow. Something standing on the other side of a door that was padlocked from my side of the corridor. I had the key in my pocket. I don't know why I took it out. I don't know why I walked to the door. I did not open the door. I want to be honest about that. I stood there for maybe 2 minutes with the key in my hand, and then I walked back to my desk and I called the police non-emergency line and told them I needed someone to come do a welfare check on a building. 2 officers arrived within 20 minutes. I showed them the door. I told them what I'd heard. One of them, younger, clearly skeptical, took my key and went upstairs. The other one stayed with me. He was up there for 11 minutes. When he came back down, he was a different color than when he went up. He told his partner to call it in. He would not tell me what he found. He asked me to wait outside. I waited outside for 4 hours. What they found in that room, I pieced together over the following weeks from the police report, which I requested through a Freedom of Information filing, and from a conversation with one of the detectives who worked the case and was willing to talk off the record. The sealed room was not empty. It had been lived in. There was bedding, old, rotted, but clearly arranged as a sleeping space. There were food containers, decades old. There were newspapers, the most recent dated November 1987, 1 month after the factory closed. And on the far wall, scratched into the plaster with something sharp, were 4 musical notes, repeated hundreds of times, floor to ceiling, covering the entire wall. The same 4 notes I had heard humming above me every night for 3 weeks. The detective told me they found human remains in the room, partial, consistent with someone who had been there a very long time. The forensic analysis confirmed they belonged to a male, approximate age 50 to 60. DNA testing took 4 months. The result came back as a match for Edwin Reese. Edwin Reese had not fallen through a floor in 1987. He had gone into that room and he had never come out. Whether by accident or by choice, the detective said they could not determine with certainty. The room had no lock on the inside. The door had been sealed from the corridor. Someone had locked him in. The case was reopened as a homicide investigation. As of the last time I checked, it remains unsolved. I never went back to that building. I handed in my resignation by email that morning, and I never set foot inside again. I've changed jobs twice since then. I work days now. I made a point of that. What I think about, and I think about it more than I'd like to admit, is the 3 weeks before I made those calls. 3 weeks of sitting 10 feet below Edwin Reese, drinking bad coffee, writing in a logbook. 3 weeks of hearing him above me and telling myself it was rats. He had been in that room for 36 years, alone in the dark in a sealed building. And the only way anyone ever knew he was there, the only reason anyone ever found him, was because he never stopped humming. I don't know if that's a comfort or the most disturbing thing I've ever considered. I haven't decided yet. If you work nights, if you've ever sat alone in a dark building and heard something you couldn't explain, I'm not going to tell you it was nothing. I used to say that. I don't anymore. Old buildings hold things. Not always ghosts. Sometimes just people. People who were put somewhere and forgotten. People who found a way to keep going in the dark alone for longer than anyone should have to. Edwin Reese hummed for 36 years in a sealed room, and nobody heard him until I did. Sleep well.